Okay, hi, Sergeant Grandstaff and Sergeant Ramirez. Thank you both so much for being on here today. So I just want to jump right into like what you guys do in the military. Tell me what branch you're with and how you got here. Like, let's start there.
So I'm Sergeant Grandstaff. The long title is Military Intelligence Systems Maintainer and Integrator. What it essentially is IT. I work with computers, networking, routers, those kinds of things.
Okay. And Sergeant Sanchez, sorry.
Sergeant Sanchez Ramirez, Sanchez. Yeah, so I'm a heavy equipment operator for the Army. I think, most of us back in the day, like in the 2010, 2011 timeframe when we joined, it was kind of like a weird recession time. So we're like, hey, the military sounds like a great idea.
Yeah.
And ended up being the greatest decision for me. I don't know about Sergeant Grandstaff, if that's how I feel, but that's how I felt.
Yeah. And why do you say that it was the best decision? Like what shifted once you got in and then?
Well, growing up, I'm actually an immigrant to this country. I was born in Mexico, and my family and I immigrated here to the U.S. in the early 90s. And I had no idea about the U.S. military. I came in with the blank slate, like open mind, everything that you see in the movies, obviously. But once I actually got into the Army, I figured out how well structured and how well disciplined a person can be from the military. And not just, marching and all that stuff, but going to school, going to college, learning a skill, being physically active and having a routine and learning those kinds of things. Like, I don't think I would have learned so many things that I know now in any other place.
And I'll have to agree with that. I've been in for about a little over 10 years, and I wouldn't change a moment of it because I never thought I'd be able to go to Korea, not once, but looking at a second time. I never thought that I would be in the situation that I am, where I'm able to travel cross country and visit family.
Yeah. I do want to jump on that Korea thing. So you said you're going for a second time. So that might actually scare some people. Is that something that you chose to do, or is that something that you were kind of forced to do? Like you got orders and you just had to go?
So the first time, yes. The first time I was 8 months off of a deployment, and they, at that point, was needs of the Army because of the climate at the time. And they're like, hey, you're going to Korea. And I'm like, okay. But the second time I requested it. I originally was trying to go for Europe, but then there was a weird thing with my orders. So instead of going to Norway, I chose Korea. And I could not be more excited because I had so much fun the first time.
And so you're going to go to Korea and you're going to work in your position as IT, right?
Yes, ma'am. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to be doing probably a lot of the stuff I did before: telecommunication work, router maintenance, system maintenance, upgrades, those kinds of things.
So when you guys both went into the military, what a lot of people have a question about is like, are you able to choose your job, or did they just tell you that you had to do this job? Like how was it set up for you?
So the good thing about the Army, other branches, when you first join, there's different incentives. The good thing about the Army, the number one biggest incentive that kind of drew me towards the Army was being able to choose the job and the career field that I wanted to go into. I know I wanted to do something where I work with hands, but at the same time, kind of have my brain in there. So engineering field was the best for me. And the Army let me pick the job that I wanted. And same with Sergeant Grandstaff.
Yeah, and I want to just add in there, I mean, Sergeant Grandstaff, you already know this, but I was also in the military. And when I went in, I was 17 and I had to have my mom's, signature to let me go. But it was kind of more out of I wanted to go to get a skill because I actually wanted to get married. And my mom said, like, you can go get married at such a young age, but you have to get a skill first. And so I was like, what's the fastest way to get a skill? And it was the military. So I went in as a radiology tech and got to choose the job and everything. And I do feel like it was probably one of the best things that I've done in my life, as far as, I mean, I didn't end up marrying that person, because once you get in there, you learn so much about people and you have some independence, and you're just doing your own thing, but but you're kind of protected too at the same time at such a young age. Like I never felt like anything was gonna go wrong, but that job ended up helping me pay for college, and gave me a skill that I could have for a lifetime, right? And you could come out into the civilian. I went reserve, so I went into I could take that skill out into the civilian side and work as well. And I think a lot of parents also wonder if the skills will translate to the civilian side. And so that's kind of another question for you guys. Like, if you do decide not to stay in active duty, can you use the skills that you've learned in the military out in the civilian side as a heavy equipment operator and also as an IT?
So absolutely. So part of my IT training was, in addition to networking, routers, all the maintenance stuff, all the other higher end things about it, we also worked with industry professionals to do actual industry certifications. When I went through, it was through CompTIA, which is a major tech cert company in addition to a bunch of other things. And I actually got my Security Plus cert, and it was totally free. And the classes after me got Network Plus and Security Plus, which are also immensely valuable on the outside.
Wow. Okay. And so what all the differences, and I want you to answer as well, Sergeant Sanchez. Sorry, go ahead. I glossed right over that.
Oh, you're fine. So I've actually been offered jobs here locally based on just me telling my experience to somebody as a heavy equipment operator. Not only do we learn skills that we learn on, on the civilian side, but we also learn skills within the military side, meaning we know how to assess situations, we know how to work under stress, we know how to do all these things that normal civilians don't know how to do. And when an employer sees that, he's like, well, I don't have to worry about this guy. If I tell him, hey, go do this task or go do this, I don't have to be worried if he's going to do it right or wrong, or he is going to do it right. He's not going to do it wrong, So I've actually had job offers from a lot of heavy equipment places, as well as CAL FIRE, as well as other organizations that deal with heavy equipment based on that.
And if I can add on to that, because part of the thing that part of the environments that we work in the military, we not only work with other military personnel from other branches, we also worked with contractors, DA civilians, and in a lot of situations, I've seen at least half a dozen people that I've worked with be working with those contractors and be given the, hey, whenever you get out, call me treatment. So it happens all.
Yeah, it is true. I do honestly. I mean, after I came out from the reserve side, I think just saying on your resume that you have, military experience or that you've been in the military. I mean, I think a lot of people tend to find that to be very impressive on your resume. And one of the first things they'll ask you when you come into the interview is, so tell me about your military experience. Like, what did you do? And, all of those things. And so I think it's something that not a lot of people talk about. And even when I told you, Sergeant Grandstaff, when I met you, I said I was in the military, you looked at me like I was crazy.
Because you don't look like that kind of person. Like, everyone thinks like totally bald, like even for women, like no hair, super hardcore.
Yeah.
Like 200 pounds and muscle bound.
Oh, yeah.
Just ready to take
That's
on the world.
definitely not me. Yeah. Yeah,
but,
no,
but in reality, you and myself and Sanchez are all very typical of the kinds of people that the Army has.
Very much so. And you meet so many different types of people in the military that, I mean, I've got friends from there that, I mean, gosh, still talk to. And I joined in 2000. So what, 22 years? Yeah. And so tell me what the different types of joining would be. Like, what's the difference between like active duty and reserves and then the National Guard? Like, when kids come in and they're asking these questions, like, how would you answer that, and which is right for, how do they know what is right for them or for their child if they're asking about it?
The biggest thing I like to tell people is, at the end of the day, it's going to be the decision that best fits you. So whether you want to join active duty because you really don't want to stay home and you want to travel, go see different things, get that, like you said, the secure paycheck and not have to worry about the things that normal people have to worry about, like health insurance, all that stuff. You're just coasting by and doing a job and being trained and getting paid. Reserves, we typically like to tell people, hey, if you already have an established career here in the area and you still want to serve your country, go reserves 100%. If you really want to do something, then do it. National Guard, we're not National Guard recruiters, so we can't really speak on it.
Okay.
The only thing I can say is that active duty and reserves are federally funded. National Guard is funded by the state. Yep.
Okay. Okay. I don't think I ever really knew what the difference between the National Guard and all of that. You know, I just knew reserves and active duty. So let's just say someone wanted to go active duty. What does that actually mean for them? Like, what does that process look like for them?
So generally, it's basically a bunch of paperwork, making sure that you're physically, mentally, and emotionally fit for those kinds of things. General tests. We have an aptitude test that we have our applicants go through, and then
is that the ASVAB or is that a different aptitude test?
It is the ASVAB.
Okay.
We have an in-house thing called the PICAT that is separate to that, but it's more or less the same thing as an ASVAB.
Okay. And can you just take that first one and not have to take the ASVAB, or do you still have to take the ASVAB?
So if you're at the point in the process where you're taking the PICAT, you're more or less already committed.
Okay.
The whole process as a whole. And the score you go and get on the PICAT is also used for figuring out what kind of jobs you get.
Okay.
Generally, the score that you get matches what kind of learning capability you best have, whether it be working with your hands, more intellectual, like mathematically and scientifically minded, those kinds of things. And then after that, you go down to the military processing center, wherever is local for us. Here in Redding, it's in Sacramento. Or where I enlisted out of Poway, California, it was San Diego.
Okay, yeah, so that's where I went out of, San Diego.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, the maps processing center there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And then it's a lot of hurry up and wait while they do like physicals and additional paperwork for like fingerprints and just additional processing for like finance and those kinds of things. And then really getting down to, is this the job you want? If it is, cool, sign this line, do your swear-in, and then you're enlisted. And then after, depending on whatever job you pick, there's a little bit of a waiting period, sometimes like a month, sometimes a couple of weeks, where you're just kind of hanging out and waiting to go off to basic. And then you go to basic. And
when you're waiting like that, like, I mean, should people keep their jobs or do they get paid during that time? Like, what's happening in that limbo period? What do you recommend to people? Go on vacation?
Yeah, so when they are ready, in between that time when they finally enlist until they ship out, they can still have their regular job, still go to school, do whatever they need to do. Let's say they're enrolled into college and they just want to leave after the semester. Well, we can get a letter from their school being like, hey, they want to leave after the semester is completed. Okay, cool. They can leave after that.
Now is that the same as the delayed entry program?
That is the delayed entry
Oh,
program.
that is a delayed entry program. Okay. I think that's what I had to do for high school. Like, I think I joined in the middle, like maybe in the middle of my high school year. Maybe, would that be right? And then my mom signed and everything. And then I waited, and as soon as high school was over, it's like, bye-bye.
You ship out within like 2
Yeah.
weeks. So that's pretty normal for high school seniors.
Okay.
They join during their senior year, and then their ship out date is no more than 30 days out. So,
Okay. Okay.
but no earlier than 2 weeks. Yeah.
No earlier than 2 weeks. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes there's special accommodations, like I said, like if they're always signed up for college or they have something pressing that's going on, then we can move the dates and work with them.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah, sorry. Go
ahead.
I was just going to ask, like, so do they get paid during that period of time or no? I can't remember.
No, in those cases, no. You do not start getting paid until you ship off to basic.
Okay.
That is when everything starts locking in. You start getting paid as full-time soldier, And then for the case of reservists, while you're in training, you're paid as a full-time. And then when you get back, you go to your reserve unit and then you're paid for the times you do work.
Okay. Yeah. Which is usually just 1 week in a month.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you go on like your, what is it called? Your 2 weeks training. I can't remember what it's called, but anyway, and you get paid on that time too.
Yes.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, and what are some jobs right now that people might be surprised to find out that's in the military that you can also do out in the civilian world?
So many.
So many.
I
So
know.
I actually looked at this job recently for this high school senior that I enlisted. He didn't want it. I don't know why, but it was multimedia specialist. So basically they're out there doing photography, they're out there doing recording, and then they're in the studio mixing it, doing whatever they're editing, and they're also broadcasting, working on, you know, the Army's television channel that we have on base and stuff like that.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that you did that.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases, those advertisements that you see on TV, where it's all the "What's your warrior" or "Be all you can be," or
Yeah.
what the slogan is at the time. A lot of the times, it's the Army will contract out for an advertisement company, and then they'll also have people who are multimedia specialists or graphic designers in the Army and actually working on those campaigns.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. That's very cool. Yeah. Now, what if somebody's in there and they decide, like maybe when they decided to join, they weren't thinking about college, they didn't want to do college at all. And then once they got in, they're like, actually, I do want to go to school. Okay. Sergeant Sanchez is raising his hand. Okay, tell me all about it.
So I absolutely was done with school after high school. I didn't want to do it. And once I came into the military, I'm like, oh, cool. I'm never going to have to do school again. Well, I had great leadership, really great leadership that pushed me to go get school done. And I think, and I do that with my soldiers too, because it's free. You know, why won't you take something that's free? So I ended up graduating.
You say it's free. What do you mean by that?
While you're serving, you get tuition assistance. You don't use your GI Bill. After service, you get your GI Bill. So during service, I've been in like Sergeant Grant Staff a little bit over 10 years, and I got my degree through them 100% free, and graduated and have a bachelor's. And I'm actually working on my second degree. I'm working on associates for social media marketing, and that's also free.
Now,
And
do you have to go to a specific college if you do it through the military?
no, and that is the beauty of it. As long as you get accepted into that college, obviously you have to work for it to get accepted into it. You can attend any college that you want. Now, there's going to be some colleges that are really pricey, right? And sometimes you do have to use your GI Bill to be able to pay for those colleges while you're using tuition assistance. Sometimes you don't. Sometimes you get grants.
Right.
So on that, because he's already pretty much set in the college that he's going to, and is looking to you're looking to just go to that college until you finish your degree plan, right? Yeah. So the school I'm currently attending, I'm trying to do a computer science degree, but the school I'm going to does not have a CS degree plan. They have computer information services, which is basically like more the admin side of it.
Right. Yeah.
Coding, that's not what I'm looking for. But I found out that some Ivy League schools will also accept military benefits and basically cover down for the cost that benefits don't cover. So they basically cut themselves a check so that military personnel can go to their schools. One example is Stanford, which I'm actually looking to try to apply for. Once I'm done with my move to Korea, I'm looking to try and either do the fall or winter semester. Hopefully I get accepted. That'd be pretty dope.
That would be pretty awesome for sure. That's awesome. Okay. So college. Now, what are some of the things that you guys find when you're talking to parents and their children about signing up for the military? Who is generally the one pushing that? Like, is it a kid because they've met you somewhere, or is it the parent because they think this might be the best option for their child? And like, what are some of the things that people push back on, both kid and parent?
So in my case, I was very opposed to it. I was, because I joined at 20, I wasn't doing a lot out of high school. So I finally eventually decided, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. And in my mind, it was the last ditch effort. It was like the last thing. My
Sure.
parents were of the mind that everyone should serve 2 years. Everyone should do at least 2 years and then figure out whether they like it or not.
I kind of
And
agree with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
after 10 years, I'm in the same boat. Because, but also being a recruiter, we talk to so many people, and we see both sides of the coins. We see the parents adamantly against it, and then the kids adamantly against it, but the parents being down for it, or the kids being down for it on the opposite.
Yeah.
And we get more pushback on, I would say, the basis of just people not knowing a lot about it, and more being scared of it, or being scared of their kids being put in that environment. Because the only thing they know is going out. They only see what's in Transformers movies or what's on TV, and it's going out, kicking in the doors, being that super macho, massive dude who can punch walls down with their mind. And it's not that. It's actually a relatively small portion of the military is those kick down doors, punch down walls with their minds kind of people. And even amongst those people, you've got some master's degree holding individuals who just went in just so they could do some cool stuff.
Yeah, that's true. A lot of people. Yeah.
The rest of it is stuff like me, or stuff like Sanchez, or vet techs, or I found out recently that physical therapist is a very rare job that is a thing in the Army. And there's the main pushback we get is people just don't know. And it's frustrating for us, but we understand it.
Yeah, like Sergeant Grant said, the biggest hurdle that we've seen, that I've seen as well, is people just not wanting to talk to us. Because coming and talking to us doesn't mean you're going to get shipped off in a bus right away.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't mean we're going to kidnap your kids and hold them until until they join. And just having a good understanding of what the Army today really is. A lot of people just shy away from it because, like you said, what they see in the movies and the media and everything like that. But if people could just take 1 second out of their day, or an hour out of the day, and come talk to us, I think it would open up a lot of minds, and people.
I actually think you're right on that. I mean, and like I told Sergeant Grandstaff, like with my experience, both my parents had been in the military, so they both. I mean, when I was trying to look for a skill to get married, which is what I wanted to do, and I was looking for like, what's the fastest way to get a skill so I don't have to work at McDonald's or do something else that I don't want to do, my mom said, well, the military is an option. And so we went down and we talked to a recruiter, and I do think that there is something to coming in with a little bit of your own plan and vision when you come into the military and talk to the recruiters, into the recruiter's office. Like, I did know that I wanted to be able to choose my job. And I knew that I wanted to be able to, work on the civilian side. So, just having an idea of like, do you want to go active duty? Do you want to go reserves? Like, what are the differences? And really getting an idea of both, because we listened to all of it. And understanding that, one of the things I tell a lot of people is like, your skill is accelerated like by years, like lightning. I mean, to go out and become a radiology tech on a normal basis, like in the civilian side, it's about 2 years.
Right.
And you could still be waiting. It could turn out to be 4 years after you do your GE requirements and then apply for the school and then hope to get into the school. It could be like 3 or 4 years. But in the military, it was like, I think a total of 42 weeks, everything, you're being paid to learn, and to do your on-the-job training and all of that.
Well, it's kind of like based on my experience as well. I was operating heavy equipment at the age of 18, 19 years old, already being thrown into the big bulldozers, the high X's, all that great stuff that guys out here in the civilian sector, they're typically the ones that are operating equipment are 40 years old and plus. They're actually getting paid adequately to do it. And I was doing it since that age of, I was a kid. I was a kid doing that job.
No, same.
And the experience that I got, it's just the amount of things that I've done it's just amazing, I guess. Like, it's overwhelming, honestly.
No, it's true. And I think people have to definitely have an open mind, like you said. Like, they have to know that it's it's more than, I mean, and you went to a different, Sergeant Grasshopper, you went to like a different vision of what people see. But I always think people think like you're going to go to the military and you're going to go to war. Like, and that's really not, from at least from my experience, because I was deployed to Germany. And I feel like, you know, you really are not like deployed. You can be, but it's, you know, I mean, it's not, I was in there for a long time before anything, and you never know what's going to happen, obviously, but depending on your job, which I think is another really important thing when you guys, you know, obviously when we're talking today, like, I think it's good to highlight, like, depending on what type of job you have, will also kind of depict where you're going to be, or determine where you're going to be if something does happen during wartime, you know?
In those situations, like mine, I am very atypical, but I'm also very typical of a lot of other jobs.
Sure.
You have the jobs that are like Sanchez's, where you are out, and if you should be able to, you went outside of the wire at one point, right? You went and actually did an operation.
We both deployed to Afghanistan.
Really?
Yeah, we both have very, very different stories about, or experiences.
Yeah.
Me as a heavy equipment operator, I, like you said, going outside of the base because we had to do missions, repair roads, do things like that. But at that time, if it needed to be, I had to get trained in just in case scenario, you know, shoot my rifle and everything like that. Well, thank God it never happened. The infantry was always there to protect us, and that was their job, to provide security. Mine was just to fix this road so the civilian population can have a better road and get trade routes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Steph's experience, which I make fun of him sometimes.
How long was your deployment?
9 months.
9 months. So he was fixing roads and being held under security for 9 months. Me, it was 4 months in Bagram, Kandahar. I was in Bagram for a month and then Kandahar. In both situations, I sat at the desk. I had maybe an hour and a half of work a day, and then I tootled on like YouTube or like watched a movie on the company's share file for like the rest of the day. And then I played Dungeons and Dragons 3 times a week and paid entirely too much for internet. And we had a monthly potluck. My deployment was chill as hell.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I mean, I feel like, I mean, when I left to do my deployment to Germany, I worked at Launchstoel in the hospital there. And we are, you know, Launchstoel is like the first stop after Afghanistan or Iraq. So any injured soldiers would come there first and then go to Walter Reed. But yeah, I worked the weekends. I had the entire week off because I was getting married. So I was like, well, I don't need the weekends. Like, I'm here by myself. So I went to college. I finished my college degree while I was deployed. I stayed on the Air Force base because I guess they had to, they didn't have enough housing on Launchstoel. So they placed us there. I stayed with 4 other girls, and it was honestly like having a college experience that I never got to have, you know, of like living in dorms. And so I would work evening weekends. So everybody loved me because they got to go out and party and have a good time while I worked the weekends in X-ray. It was super slow. So I would just always get my homework done.
Yeah.
I would just, and then during the week, I would just go to school, you know, I would do my online school stuff. And that's how I finished my degree, because it was right in the middle of school, you know, and ending. It was a great experience, and you get to travel. You still have time off. I mean, I know we're glorifying like a really bad period for some people, but everybody has different experiences, and it's important to know that. But I cannot complain about my deployment at all. And actually, in some ways, I think it was really cool to be able to go in that capacity. I mean, you all travel together, you all deploy together, you all go home together. Like it's just a really interesting experience. Like you can't talk to anybody about it unless they've been there.
Right. You know? And like you said, it is an experience that whether I see it as whether it was good or bad, it's an experience that changes your mind and opens your mind to different things.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the biggest thing for me staying in the military, because once you think you gotten used to a place, oh no, you're going to go somewhere else and your mind is going to be opened again, and you're going to live these amazing experiences.
Now, are either of you Are either of you married?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And how do your spouses do with all of the movements and all the changes? And, I mean, is this just a way of life and everybody's okay with it? Like, is it hard to, I mean, it's hard to kind of like uproot and move every couple of years, right? Or
That is one of those things that definitely falls under the pros and cons of joining the military in general. Every place that we go is a 3-year obligation. We're required for 36 months to be wherever we're assigned. Sorry, I keep getting phone calls.
it's okay. You're very important.
But unless it's places like Germany or Korea, in which for a single soldier, Korea is a 1-year obligation, it's a 1-year tour. For people who are married and are able to bring their family with them, it's a 2-year obligation.
Okay.
And part of the one of the things that I am not a huge fan of, I also love, but also am kind of like not a fan of, is we pull up roots every 3 years. So we settle in a place just long enough to get really settled into groove. We start having people, and we have friends in the area. We start getting really close with those friends, and then we have to pack and move again.
Do you always pack and move on base, or do you like, how's the living situation on that? Or do you get to live anywhere in the city, or how does that work?
So when you are married, you get to live, you have the choice between living on base or off of base.
Okay.
Just kind of depends what you want to do. Me personally, once work is done, this uniform gets taken off quickly, and I'm in my hippie attire. And you would never think I was in the military, but that's personally. I like to separate work from my personal life, and you have the choice to do those things. Now, obviously, if you're going to go overseas and things like Korea or something, you have to live on base and stuff like that. Sometimes you can live off base, I think, right?
Yeah. So Korea, they call it living on the economy, but it's basically living off base in normal civilian housing. And depending on where you go, there are some restrictions, but I know that had I been able to go to Norway, I would have been living in the normal apartment or like a townhouse or whatever.
Okay.
I was already looking into stuff like that. In Korea, I more than likely will be living on base with my spouse, unless there isn't housing available, and then I have the option of looking into the economy for those things.
Oh, okay.
If you're a single soldier, however, with no kids, no family, no pets, you would be normally living in the barracks. But the upside to that is you don't have to pay for utilities. You don't have to pay for electricity, water, food's provided, nothing.
And now when we say barracks, it's not what people think.
I know, I was like, we have to clarify that because.
Oh yeah. So this is my 5x5 dorm. Here's my bed cushion.
And my chains and shackles. Yeah.
I'm like, we have to clarify this real quick here for a lot of people because, okay, tell us what barracks mean, because I have a little bit of experience, but I don't know if it's the same. So tell me.
So barracks now today, just imagine a college campus. That's basically what they are. They're actually a little bit nicer. You have, it's like living in an apartment. In apartments, you have your room. You have your roommate, completely separate from each other. You have a walk-in closet, all furnished, everything like that. And you guys just share a kitchen and a bathroom, and that's it.
The only thing that changes is like general sizes of the rooms, which are usually fairly generous. The one
Say again? You're too far away. I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry.
Somehow he's coming through really easily.
I said the only thing that changes is the sizes of the rooms. Sometimes it's intended for one person, sometimes it's intended for two. My room that I had in Korea was intended for 2 people, but it was like 10 by 15, and it had like 9-foot tall ceilings, and it had the room I was in by myself, because I was a sergeant by that time, had a queen size bed. Like, it was nice. So where you're going will change, but it will very rarely be an uncomfortable living.
Yes. And that's also my same experience. When I was actually for on the job training, I'd love to talk about that too, guys, like how the training works and all of that. But when I went through my on the job training, which was another 22 weeks, we lived in an apartment type style, and it was like one room and then another room. Exactly what you said, Sergeant Sanchez. I have Sanchez Ramirez in my head, so I just want to keep saying the whole thing. But anyway, yeah, so it was just the two of us girls, and then there were tons of other people in the same area, just like you said, the like a high school dorm. I mean, not a high school, college dorm room.
Mhm.
Like all of those, it was awesome. It was a great experience. You feel very independent. And just, you guys said something earlier, and it made me think that actually joining the military, I wish I didn't call it that, but it's really like just getting a full-time job.
Mhm.
It really is, while you learn.
With the benefit of it being salary instead of hourly.
Yes.
So we don't, so like we're getting paid to talk to you. We're getting paid to do this podcast. We're getting paid to go to Disney World. He recently came back from a vacation with his kid. He went to Disneyland for a week.
Oh,
He was still getting paid. I think we had
Yep.
to pay in the middle of that. So you just
Yeah.
got paid in the middle of the
Yeah,
vacation.
that was really
Yeah.
nice. I think one of the biggest takeaways from that is, like you said, you have your independence. A lot of people think when they join the military, they're going to be locked up for the whole duration of their contract, which is not true. It's, when I first joined the military, I got stationed in Fort Lewis, up in Washington, JBLN, Joint Base Lewis McChord. And it was absolutely amazing. And I fell in love with Washington just because when I was 18, 19 years old, I got to go out of base and go explore Tacoma, got to explore SeaTac, Seattle, all the great area of Washington. And a lot of people don't realize, they just think, oh, I'm going to be locked up, I don't get no freedom. But like you said, you start meeting people, you start, getting in the rhythm of things and knowing who you actually are and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I tell people too, like, I have more freedom while I'm in the military than someone working having to work extra hours to make bare minimum income. My free time, I treasure it because I do have a 4-year-old, and I'm spending time with him. And if my time was taken up just trying to make rent, I don't think I would see him as much as I do now.
Absolutely. And you've been given the opportunity to provide for your family, provide for yourself, like take your kids on vacation. There's so many things. Like when we talked about that 2-year commitment thing, I mean, I feel like if you're not going to college, like if you don't have a way to go to college, whether it's through grants or however people, pay, or you have parents who can pay for it, whatever it is, if you can't do it that way, then I would definitely say, go to the military, get a skill, be paid while you learn that skill. I mean, it really is life-changing. Like it really is. And there's nothing else that I've ever seen that's like that, where you can get those skills, and even for the reserves, it was maybe, I want to say it was like a total of a year, because I got the EMT training and the radiology tech training. And everybody for medical, I think, I don't know if it's still the same, but most everyone goes to Fort Sam Houston, in Texas. And that was a fun experience. I mean, yeah, I think maybe you guys need to do a podcast, and you have to interview people who've been in the military before, so that other people can see like light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, and I do want to talk about basic training too, like what types of things happen in basic training. I know it seems like it's this really scary thing that's happened, but like, let me just say to everybody listening and all the parents, if I could make it through basic training, anyone can make it through basic training, I swear.
So on that one, basic is often described as the best thing you'd never want to do again, because you learn things about yourself in terms of what you can handle, how capable you actually are, and how you can push past barriers that you didn't know you could.
Yes, absolutely.
As recruiters, naturally, our job is to put people in the army. And even people who are, I put someone in October. I think it was October. She was like 5'3". And
no, she was like 4 foot nothing.
Oh yeah, she was like 4'8" and weighed like 70 pounds, soaking wet, with a barrel in her pocket, and she made it through basic.
Absolutely.
And she went to airborne school And she went
Really?
in super, super tiny and skinny, and she came out ripped, like with actual muscle and confident. And she's doing very, very well now. She's been in, actually, I think she's been there for almost a year now at this point. Yeah.
You need to go interview her. You need to find her and interview her. Because people just can't even fathom what you just said. I mean, they just don't think of that as an option.
And it's not just like kids coming out of high school. It's parents too. Like they look at in some cases they know their kid. Their kid is they're not good with authority, or they're small and they don't know if they would do well in it. And we've heard that before.
Yeah.
But those people, sorry, I'm gonna take that off. And in our experience, those are more often than not the ones that are the most surprising, because sometimes it is like we mentioned, the parents are down for it, but the kids are definitely not. But through whatever circumstance, they come in, they join the Army, and then they do very, very, very well.
Yeah.
We actually just recently got a text message from a mother that her son just graduated, and she went to his basic training graduation, and she texted our group chat, or our boss, and said, "Thank you so much for what you've done for my son. He has never smiled this big in his life, and he graduated basic." And you could just see how proud he is of himself, and how proud he is.
Well, it gives a sense of, I mean, like my mom told me when I went in, she said, they tear you down to build you back up. And I think once you kind of have that in your mind before you go in, it's a very different experience, because now like, okay, like you're going to make it through basic. I mean, I think at least when I went through, I was like, I know I'm going to make it through. Like they can't hurt you. You know what I mean? As far as like they're not going to hit you. They're not going to do anything like abusive to you or anything.
Right.
But I think sometimes people think that. It's just more of like, you're going to go through a rigorous process so that you can come out better on the other end, because everybody now has to learn this new process so they can all work together, with your battle buddies and like your squad and your platoon. Like you all have to work as like a congealed one piece, moving together.
Exactly. I love the idea of a congealing mass of people.
I know. I was like, once I got in there, I couldn't change it. I was like, it's congealed. Yeah.
And I don't know if it was for you guys, but for me, it was basic training was more for me mental than anything else.
Oh yeah.
And what I mean by that is that mental strength, I didn't know how important that was until I went to basic training. And that's honestly what the Army is kind of more leaning towards, is mentally strong individuals who,
Right.
if they can make it through a situation like that mentally, then they can make it through physically. Because
Yes.
physically
also
comes second, mental comes first.
Yes. But to add to that also, and to kind of like, I don't want to go too deep into it, but also people need to know that you don't have to start mentally strong to go into the military, because I think sometimes parents think like, oh, well, my kid is so immature and they would never make it through basic, and they would never make it through someone yelling at them, and they're not good, like all the things that, to me, sometimes when I hear people talking like this, I'm like, we have to give it a chance too. Like, see if the process works, because oh my gosh, the drill sergeants, I was like, who are they? The drill sergeants want to see your kids succeed. They like, that's one thing that I learned once we were in there. I mean, they are really hard on you at first, but then it kind of becomes either we become endearing to them or they become endearing to you, like, but it's just like, maybe would you say like maybe 4 weeks in, things kind of start to chill a little bit? 6 weeks?
It depends on where you go. But I would say, probably about maybe 4 or 5 weeks in, it starts getting a little bit more relaxed. You start really internalizing the routine. You start realizing what's expected of you.
Yeah.
It gets easier.
Yes.
You start correcting yourself. You start correcting
your others,
friends, your peers, everything like that.
Yeah.
But it really starts working as a cohesive unit.
Yeah.
In your family.
Yeah, exactly. And if they've ever been on, one thing I think also that helps, I would think, for seniors is like thinking, if you've ever been on a team at all, and like somebody messes up on the team and the coach says, okay, everybody give me 20, or everybody, has to run the laps or whatever it is. Like, think of like that as the entire experience. Basic training.
24 hours a day. Yes.
Yeah.
I remember getting in trouble because I ate the Skittles out of the MRE, and you know, especially that. I know. So we all had to do like a hold your arms out exercise or something. It wasn't fun. It was not an exercise, but yeah, whichever way it was like it hurt. That's all I know. And I felt bad because I made everybody have to do it. But
right, and it was a physically demanding experience, and it was at that time it was difficult for you, but now you look back on it and you laugh about it.
Oh yeah.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
that was the funniest thing I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still pull out my basic the yearbook type thing, you know, and I show people which is horrible, but I show people like coming out of the gas, you know, the gas, what is it called?
Oh, that was fun.
With tears.
It's not the gas chamber, tear gas. Yeah, exactly. Well, you know, tears and saliva and all of the, you're sweaty, it's everything.
That's the other thing parents don't know is that you don't, at the end of the day, you don't know what your kid is capable of. Your kid doesn't know what they're capable of.
Yeah.
However, there's one thing that your kid will definitely tell you when they come back from basic is they know exactly how much mucus is in their body.
Yeah. That's true. That's so true. Oh my gosh. So so who would you recommend? I mean, I know it's really hard for you guys as recruiters because you don't really know everybody's goals when you meet them immediately, and you have to find that out to direct them the right way. But like, who would you recommend would be a good candidate for active duty? And then I want to ask you about reserves as well, just to see like what you would be looking for when you're placing someone in these or directing them in those areas. Like, what would you say?
For active duty, who would be a good candidate? Honestly, anyone would be a good fit for active duty, especially people who want to get out and travel. I know a lot of my friends that growing up, they like going hiking, they love taking pictures, they like going to they were the ones that joined the military because they're like, I want to experience things. I want to get out and do all this crazy stuff. You know, some of the people that I graduated high school with, this girl went to Japan and she's all posting selfies in Japan. And I'm posting selfies at the Seattle Space Needle. Crazy stuff.
Cool.
Anyone I think would be a great fit for active duty. Now, reserve.
You mean anybody who might want to travel, or anybody who might like, I mean, like if I'm getting down to brass tacks, I mean, you know, we live in an area where there's a lot of, you know, lower income, a lot of people are struggling, you know, and maybe they've gone through the whole career, and especially, you know, with this nonprofit, Launchpad for Kids, these are the types of kids that we work with, right? Like we work with kids who are struggling and are coming from at-risk environments and things like that. I mean, I feel like for kids maybe in those situations where there might not be a very clear path to whatever career you want to do, maybe you don't even know what you want to do. I mean, would those be good candidates for active duty? Like, hey, like just, you know, if you come and join.
If they don't have a sense of direction, but they know they want to be successful, but don't know how to get there, the biggest thing is just come talk to us.
Yeah.
And then see if that active duty is a great path for them, because I've seen it too, where one of my soldiers, when I was back in Fort Lewis, Washington, he came from a rough upbringing. He was a foster kid and he told me his life story, but he didn't let that determine his outcome.
That's right.
And he had, well, I don't want to toot my own horn, but he had me. And because I had great leadership, my great leadership told me, go to college. I don't care what you're taking, what classes you're doing, you're going to do it because it's free. Right. Well, I did the same thing for that soldier. I'm like, look, you're my brand new soldier. You've only been here a couple of months. You're going to college. I don't care what you say. Take some stupid class. I don't care, but you're going to do it. And he turned out to be the best soldier. He got his degree. Now he's out, but he's working for a great company, making very good money.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying, we've put in a bunch of people since I got here that come from not great backgrounds. Some of them have a criminal record of some degree. have not great family environments, and or they're just looking to get out of Reading. Like,
Yeah.
love being here. Meanwhile, there are also those people who really want to leave, and we help with that.
Right, right, exactly. That's exactly what I was wondering, because you know, I mean, I think the reason for me, like speaking about the reserves, like that it works so well is because I did have an ultimate goal already. And like I just needed a stepping stone to get me from where I was to, you know, that skill that I needed so I could get married or I could do what I wanted to do, you know. And when you're 17, you really are making some not so great decisions, right? So it's like, but once you're in the military and you get exposure to all of these different people and all of these different ways of thinking, and you know, you just see, it opens your eyes to like what the world has to offer. And once I had that happen, I was like, actually, you're not such a hot choice anymore, you know, like, and so I wonder, because I want to show parents also like what the options are, you know, as far as like, so active duty is great, and they'll go off and they'll be taken care of on salary as soon as they start basic training. And the minimum to, what was that?
Complete independence.
Complete independence, but also people watching out for them too. Like they're gone, but not really. Like you can't get into a ton of trouble in the military. Like they tell you and they take care of you to make sure, you know, like we went to Amsterdam when we were on deployment, and a lot of those people were much older than me, in their 40s. They still told them, do not go to the coffee houses. You will be in trouble if you go, you know, like there were so many things that they help you along the way.
Guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Guidance. Yes, absolutely.
As far as the reserves go, because I know we touched a lot on the active, the reserves is the same thing. It has, you know, the same thing of anyone can join it. It's good for anybody. But a lot of the people who wind up doing it are people who have a good job, like Sanchez mentioned. They have a good job. They already have a life established where they are. They're just looking for some additional support and some additional help with college. They want to stay home so they can support their family. They want to stay home so they can take care of relatives for whatever reason. And if something happens, they still have that option to go active if they want later on.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that, but that's actually true. Yeah.
Safety nets on safety nets on safety nets.
Yeah, and a lot of nurses in this area, they're in the reserves because they wanted to serve their country and at the same time stay home and serve their community, which is great. Like business owners, I know some of them are also in the reserves. You just don't know, like you see somebody and you wouldn't know they're even in the reserves.
Yeah, that's true. Now, one of the things I think, and I just want to make sure this is right, but when you are in the reserves and you do have a job, but you join the military and you have to go for your training, are you able to keep that job? Like, is there something federally, like they can't fire? What? Okay, you guys explain that to me.
Federally, there is a federal law that states if you have to leave for military training, like you join the military and you go in reserves, they have to hold your position. They cannot fire you while you are gone. And the only way they can do that is if they like decide to let you go before you leave for reasons, or you mess up when you get back.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
While they're gone, they cannot get rid of that position. So that job will always be there when they come back.
Yeah.
That was under the Soldier Sailor Act. So they're protected by it. That's what it is. There's a lot of things from that act that protects us from, you know, rent to jobs to other things in between,
And car loans,
car loans, things like that, because we are military. We have to do certain things a different way than normal people. Move, go here, go there, and all this other stuff.
Yeah. Well, I feel like this was just such good information. I really had a great time chatting with you guys. I have a few questions that I want to ask you guys for our lightning round before I let you go. So my first question is, and this will be for both of you, what is your best piece of advice? You can either give it to a parent or you can give it to a child, but what would be your best piece of advice for someone thinking about the military?
I would
Or you
say,
can just say life advice too.
I would say just talk to a recruiter. Talk to a recruiter, whether it be the Army or the Navy or the Marines. Each one of them has something different for everyone. And just The most frustrating thing for us is people immediately saying, no, I don't want to talk to you guys. We don't want to, we're good. Just give it a chance. The worst thing that happens is you walk away with some information. Best thing is your kid joins the Army or the Navy or whatever, and they're really happy and they're set.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much that. Don't limit yourself to the opportunities that life gives you. I think the biggest thing I always tell kids when they're in school, it's do good in school. No, it doesn't matter if you're going to join the military or not. Do good.
Yeah. It's true, because it does come back. I mean, and you probably know this, since you ended up going to college as well. It's like later on, they still come back to look at your transcripts. They still want to know, and the Army, being part of the Army is a boost to all of that. But it's not going to be like a shoe-in, because you still have to get into the college if you decide to go that route. But I do think of the military as still a really good safety net. At the end of the day, whether you decide to continue on in your education or not, your next question is, what is your current book that you're reading? Yours might be in Korean, Sergeant Grandstaff, but
Me, and I'm not a linguist.
Not yet.
Madam, you were assuming my language.
yes.
Currently, I'm in the midst of, there's two. I'm in the middle of the Return of the King, Lord of the Rings series, and I'm also in the middle of a series called Noobtown, which is a lot of fun.
Okay. I like that. And so
I am more of a movie fanatic.
okay. Oh, I'm getting to that. So no book right now?
So not many books right now.
Okay, no book right now. What is your favorite movie?
My favorite movie of all time has to be Goodfellas.
It's a good
one. Okay. I like it.
I don't have one because they're all so good, but I will take anything by Ghibli. Studio Ghibli films are my happy place because it's hard to hate them.
Well, give us one movie if someone doesn't know who that is, like me.
So Studio Ghibli films are things like Spirited Away, Secret World of Arrietty, Ponyo, Castle in the Sky, Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. The most popular and common one is My Neighbor Totoro, which is like big cat creature with like big whiskers. It's adorable. It's a lot of fun, a lot of colors. They're great. If you haven't seen them, you need to. And if you have, watch them again.
Oh my gosh. Okay. And then you're going to leave us with your favorite quote. Any quote that you live by, like a quote that you just love.
I'm gonna be a little bit basic and go with any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic, simply because it's true.
What did you say?
Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. It's a Arthur C. I think it's Arthur C. Clarke. I may be wrong on that, but it's a very well-known saying that people like to bring up, and I just like it.
Okay, I love it.
And for mine, it's actually something me and my son repeat to ourselves. We're boxers, so we like boxing and stuff. And one of the biggest things I always tell him is, what do we do when we lose? And he'll respond with, we learn. What do we do when we win? We stay humble.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Well, thank you guys so much. I really had a good time talking to you. I think there's a lot of good information here for parents. If there's anything else you want to add, please go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I will end this interview.
Ma'am,
I think we're good.
Yeah.
You're good? All right. Thank you guys so much. I'm going to stop the recording and just hold tight for just a second.